I wanted to put this first to everyone as a kind of a question. We talk a lot about, we've probably heard a lot in the media about this Great Resignation, and certainly with the number of job vacancies on the boards at the moment, certainly with a very low unemployment rate, are we seeing the early signs of the Great Resignation, or is this simply just a very strong candidates market? And we'll get into that by really looking at and dissecting some of the employment indicators. So let's start with unemployment. So let's have a look at this. And as you can see, you've got unemployment now at absolute record lows, 4.2% recently announced. And, that is indicating that should be a massive wake-up call for employers in terms of competition in the market. So obviously when unemployment is low, there's going to be much more competition for people in any sort of recruitment process that you might be running. And certainly being at the top of the market and being agile and doing all of the little things right is very, very important in dealing with that. So that's the first indicator I wanted to share with you today, because it's an important one in terms of unemployment, and that always has an impact on what sort of market we're dealing with in terms of recruiting new staff. We've also got this notion of the highest hours being worked. So you can see this graph here, which talks about the monthly hours worked in all jobs, seasonally adjusted, or millions of hours that are worked. And as you can see at the moment, it's at levels which are very, very high compared to previous years. So not only do we have very low unemployment, we also have people working more hours than they normally would work in the present climate. And obviously there's a number of factors that make that up. So certainly not the case that it's a fake unemployment number. There seems to be a lot of hours worked correlating with those low unemployment numbers, again adding to the pressures around finding even either recruiting new staff or getting staff to do more hours in some respect. We've also got the highest number of people employed, another statistic. Now, obviously, this does kind of go up a little bit with population, but even population growth has been pretty modest, or potentially even certainly migration-wise, it's been non-existent. So you've got this, again, adding everything together here: low unemployment environment, highest hours work, highest number of people employed. So it's just all these things add to the pressure of the current market, where things are and why it's so challenging to find people, or to find people to work in your organizations at the moment. We've also got the lowest underemployment rate. So this is the rate of people who are underemployed. It certainly takes into account a measure of how many hours are desired and whether or not those people are underutilized. And as you can see, there is a low underemployment rate, which means that, again, most people who are seeking work are getting the work that they desire, or very, very close to the work they desire. And you can see there that the underemployment rate, certainly in terms of people in general, is heading down towards that sort of 6% mark, where going back a little while you were looking at sort of over the 10% mark. So I guess adding all of this together, and none of this comes as any surprise to us. I mean, anecdotally, we've seen for the last couple of months huge competition for people, and what we're really seeing in adding up that whole lowest unemployment, highest hours work, highest number of people employed, lowest underemployment rate, is that we have a very, very strong candidates market. And look, ultimately, whether you call that the Great Resignation, whether you call that just a very strong candidates market, it's semantics, really. I mean, all the indicators just point to this being a challenging period for employers looking to increase their numbers, or even just fill the vacancies, just to stay where they are in terms of employment numbers. So that's important to understand. I've got a couple of other indicators that I wanted to show, and this was in respect to just some further drivers of the recruitment market. So it looks at the net overseas migration, and you can see there's a significant drop in that around 2021, and obviously that's been because of all of the border restrictions and those sorts of things, which has discouraged that type of migration. And, again, if you think of some of the COVID factors and some of the other factors here, perhaps that we haven't touched on, we've not only got all of those things that we've just spoken about, but we've now got a lifting of restrictions across Australia, and hopefully there won't be any further lockdowns going forward. The effectiveness of lockdowns has certainly been challenged in a number of areas, and whether that's even a successful strategy or not is up for debate. We've got continued economic growth as well, certainly seeing that in the indicators, albeit on a pretty kind of haphazard line. And we've got this low migration as well. So that's only adding and fueling more towards this notion of this candidates market where, candidates just a spoil for choice. They have unprecedented choice on jobs that are out there. They can very easily adapt from one employer to another, and employers are really pulling out all stops to try and bring new people into their organisations. So